Welcome back to the Footballguys Home League Show. He's Kevin Murray. I am Joey Wright. We are here to celebrate every aspect of the fantasy league experience. We're excited to be here with you today. If you're watching us here on the Home League Show YouTube channel, make sure to like and subscribe and share it with all of your friends, family, league mates, local political figures, whoever you want to send this show to. Get that out to them because we want everyone having fun fantasy leagues, fun commissioner settings. We want everything fun and great and involvement. Kevin, I've talked enough, and this is what I do best is I talk enough. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. We had a fun intro start there with a few retakes because we just got to get it right, and that's what the show is about. It's about getting it right. It's about getting your fantasy league right. It's about connecting with your league members and having fun while doing it. And that's what Joey and I are doing. We're having
I think
fun.
we need to, yeah, we are having fun. I think we need to take like the first 3 minutes of where Joey just couldn't put his words together and tack it on the end of the episode as some bloopers. I was as tongue tied as the first time I saw my wife. I was just like, couldn't speak. Kevin, why don't you let the people know? I'm already doing it again. Let the people know why we're here today and what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, in this episode, we are going to explore ways to keep your fantasy leagues active and engaged during the final weeks of the season and into the playoffs because it's important, right? Again, this time of year, you got people competing for the playoffs. They're dialed in. They're on it. And then you got another subset of the league that's they're not doing so well. They're losing a little interest because they're not doing well. There's injuries. There's bad roster management. There's also you got your opponent's scoring average is just through the roof, right? Bad luck, right? So that kind of stuff happens in fantasy, and that's who we want to talk to. We want to make sure that people, we want to make sure the commissioners and those involved in a fantasy league are making it fun throughout the whole season because nothing's better than a fantasy league that's all connected and dialed in through the playoffs, cheering on their rivals or wishing the worst for them. You want people in the bleacher seats while the championships being handed out in the fantasy league, right? You want people engaged and rooting on the champion, or again, dreading the day that person of all people win the fantasy league.
That's probably for me the worst is when the guy in your league that probably is your biggest rival or the gal in your league that's the biggest rival, when they win the championship, makes you sick to your stomach. Just, ugh.
It does, and that's where you can get sick to your stomach with it, but it's also, it kind of shows it's important to keep a league history and be aware of what's happened in the past. You want to know who your rivals are. You want to know who is who's the evil villain of the fantasy league, who's won the most championships, and if you're keeping track of the history of your league, it means more for that legacy of the league. And you're right, when the person who does not deserve to win wins, it hurts. It also, but it provides motivation for next season. Next
100%.
year is your opportunity. So hopefully it's this year. Hopefully you're winning championships this year. But obviously, in this show, we love celebrating everyone's league, not just our own. We want to make sure that we highlight, a league of the week. We spotlight fantasy leagues that are doing great things. And the league that we're going to talk about this week is a few leagues involved, but it's the Flex Leagues by Jake Seeley. Joey, you have personal experience with this stuff. Take it away.
Yeah, I think the best thing about flex leagues is I'm a defending champion this year. There we go. Isn't it beautiful? I'm holding the belt up for all our audio listeners. Yeah, I won the championship in just my second year. I've been in both championship games for both years I've played. But no, Jake Seeley from The Athletic puts on it is my favorite league to play in outside of my home league. It's an absolute blast. Everyone comes in our league to New York City for the in-person drafts. Right there in Times Square at the Perfect Pint. Sirius XM Radio comes in and records the draft, brings all the participants on the radio to talk about their draft strategy. And it's a way to kick off the fantasy season for all of us. It's the first week in August every year. We have an absolute blast. And then it's not just about the drafting that goes on in that league, the relationships that have come out of that. This last year, I got invited by Jake and then Jay Felicio, and I used to work together at Front Yard Fantasy, inviting me up to, this will be my third flex league that I go to. Oh no, this is the third year that I'm playing in it this year. So this is my third time going to New York. This year we went to like a barcade the night before the draft and hung out till like 2 o'clock in the morning, just having an absolute blast. Those relationships you build in leagues, even if it's not your home league with your friends, the people you get to meet within this industry has been fantastic for me and for everyone there. Yeah, some really fun Uber rides through New York City that we've had through the years. My first hibachi experience came out of Flex Leagues. But Flex isn't just in person. There are online Flex Leagues that Jake runs, and they are just an absolute blast.
And that's a good example of, an industry league, a fantasy industry league with, with experts and analysts and whatnot from across the industry can give that same home league vibe. And I think they obviously, Jake captures that. You experience that. And it can obviously be, just as special as your home league or even more. Again, if you're tacking on a trip to New York and doing a bunch of special things and going to shows and whatnot. I think it's pretty amazing that you get experience that. And Jake's done a great job with that. So depending, no matter what the league is, your home league with, in your living room with some old friends or, in New York City, Times Square, the ability to create a home league type experience, it can happen, in either location. It's really about the connections and the fun that the league brings, and that'll make that league your favorite league and the one you got to win. So I love that for you.
It's fun. And I just want to put it out there. Like this week, we talked about a league that I just happened to be in. I think Kevin honestly forgot that I won the championship, which is why I had to bring the belt on to remind him that I'm not only a host on the show, but I am a champion in many ways. But if you know of a league or a great commissioner out there that's just doing really fun things, we want to know about it. We want to make them our league of the week. Send us an email to fbgcommish@footballguys.com. Let us know about that in the subject line. Put League of the Week so we know why you're messaging us. And we can't wait to feature your league, your commissioners, everything about it on our show.
I love it. Time for a little commish corner. I'll just give you, some advice. Again, it's playoff season. You're getting there. You're battling all the way through. You got to make it fun. Look for the rivalries in your fantasy league and do a little bit of artwork. Do some, create some memes. There's apps like Canva that just make it so easy nowadays. Take these matchups, do previews for these matchups. You can do it in a photo, in a meme, or you can do a video, but capture the rivalries, highlight the matchups that are coming in these playoffs. It's a great way to keep things engaged, keep league members fired up to continue to compete. And there's not just one tournament in a fantasy league. There's the playoffs. There's also a toilet bowl championship. We're going to get into some of that stuff too. But don't forget those people competing for either last place or for the winning of the toilet bowl. We're going to get into that. I think it's something that's important to really focus on in a fantasy league.
All right, and for Commissioner's Corner, I think we need to go to court, Kevin. You got it? There it is. There's the gavel.
There we go.
With the Black Eye Joe logo on the, what's the bottom part of the gavel called? The platform?
I don't know.
Once again, Joey doesn't know what things mean.
It's a stand. I don't know.
We want to know about your league disputes and your problems and all of the bad things going on in your league as well. Let us decide who went wrong in your league, who was right, who was wrong. Bringing it to Commissioner Court. FBGcommish@footballguys.com. Send those emails in. Let us know Commissioner Court in the subject line. We want to feature your disputes, your problems, your grievances here on the show.
Yeah, give us, when you find the phone number to this phone, dial it in. And if you're listening, I picked up a red phone because that's become part of the main props to this show. Yeah. But speaking of props, we got to give props to everybody, competing for your fantasy leagues. It's a journey. It's a ride. It's a lot. It takes a lot, but it's why we're here. We're having fun playing fantasy football. And let's talk about it. It's time for the home league huddle. We're going to talk about keeping engagement alive through the end of the season and into the playoffs. I got a story for me personally where a good example of how you can keep a league fun. It's just a rule, right? Basically, what we do in our home league the last handful of years as we take that sixth seed in a 6-team playoff And we give it to the team with the highest points outside of the playoffs. And it's been fun seeing that over the years. A couple times someone's, got into the playoffs just because of their points. Obviously, there's some disputes. Sometimes it's hard to lose that sixth spot. I was in it a couple years ago where I was in the sixth spot and I got kicked out. It hurt, but I respect the rules. And this last year, I've never seen this before. We had our last place manager, dead last, about to get punished, last place. They had the highest points outside the playoffs, and they made like 2-12 or whatnot. They made the playoffs. They took that 6th seed, and what did they do with that? They went all the way and won the championship. So when we talk about keeping things engaged, you're not out of the playoffs in this league. Again, you don't have to adopt these settings, but in my league here, you got 6 teams at the end that are even they're out of the playoffs, but they're still competing for points to get in. So it kind of keeps everyone engaged during the end of the season, whether to get in yourself or to see what's happening, because it's absolute chaos. And then for the guy to win the whole championship, shout out Travis Moore, Hall of Famers. The guy wins the championship in last place. At this last draft, we celebrate last place and the champion at the same time because he did it. And that was a way that, it really brought the league together. I thought, there's a chance people were going to be irritated that the last place guy won it all, but people were rooting him on throughout the whole playoffs. And he ended up winning in the end by less than a point in the championship. And he also had a playoff matchup that was like within a point or so. So it was truly a fun ride, seeing and witnessing this experience. And that's what it's all about. You want to keep the league engaged as best you can, and through rules and settings and engagement, it happens.
I have become a huge fan of the 6th place team or the 8th place team, how many ever teams you have in your league, making the playoffs based on points. That's how I got into the Flex League Championship. The first year that I played in Flex was the 6th place team got on by points, and I think I was the 8th place team because of win-loss record, but because of points I got in. And I think it's a great way to reward engagement through the whole season, because that team that has the most points, they're setting their lineups every week. They're making sure there's no one on their bye weeks in your lineup. They're playing the matchups. They're thriving. They are clawing to get into that playoffs, and that's usually the team you got to watch out for. I've never heard of the last place team in the league popping up to that 6th spot to take it. I love that though. I love that. You said Travis was his name?
Yep, Travis Moore. Yep.
There you go. Wow.
So, side note, he actually played college basketball with Brian Scalabrine. How about that?
Really?
Yep.
What school was that at?
He was at Highline College. They went to junior college before Scalabrine went to USC, and then obviously
very cool.
Isn't that fun? Yeah, he grew up right near me. So it was obviously a fun time, and I think that's what it's about. We want to talk about, again, playoff settings, playoff timing, creative formats. This season, obviously, things are set in stone in your league. You're not going to change your playoff format right now, but you want to be aware of options out there for next season. You want to start planning next season while you're in this current season. So we'll talk a little bit about different playoff options. Again, with this show, when we throw out in, ideas and, and things that people can do in fantasy leagues, not every rule is perfect. Not everyone is appropriate for your league. These are just ideas that people do out there for you to get some inspiration from. If something appeals to you, you want to implement in your league, go for it. Playoff format, if it's perfect for your league, don't change a thing. But if you want to change things up and mix things up, there are ways people do playoffs that are a little different. Obviously we talk about when do playoffs start. I think for most leagues it's after week 14 nowadays. So basically week 15, you want to get through the whole season. You want to avoid those bye weeks. You don't want any playoff teams in bye weeks. There are some leagues that start early, and there are pros and cons to starting a playoff early. Most of the time, you're trying to avoid the end of the season benchings and that kind of stuff, which brings up another topic, which is, I think, one of the firmest things I believe for a fantasy league is you just can't have a championship game in the final week of the season because of the buys. People do it. And I've had conversations with people that that are convinced that, hey, that league that week just it makes it more challenging for the league managers, right? The managers No, no, it doesn't.
No.
It's the most important week of the season, the most important matchup of the season. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be played when things are most fair, and you can't
For
have half your team missing because when you got to the championship and then blow it because you didn't have a roster to set.
Yeah, for me, I love chaos at the draft, getting draft order, and the punishments. Where I don't want chaos is in my championship week matchup, where I probably did most of the right things to get there in that week. That's the one week I kind of just want it really level. Like Team A plays Team B in a week where most players are going to be on the field. You mentioned that, no team should be playing in week 18, which is our last week of the fantasy, technically the last week of the fantasy season now. I've heard of people abandoning the week 17 because of last
Yeah.
year, how much chaos there was in week 17, where teams are reverting back to playing in week 16 for a championship. And I don't think that's out of the question. If you want a truly fair championship game, which I like, but hey, listen, if you want the chaos, go to week 18, but I won't join the league.
Yeah, and that's the hard part with the NFL extending the
Yeah.
season, another game and maybe another game, in the near future.
Yeah, it's going to
It
happen.
changes fantasy a little bit. I mean, for me personally, I don't think you need that many games to prove who deserves to be in the playoffs in the NFL. So why are you
No.
doing that to the players? Obviously, follow the money, but at the same
Yeah.
time, in fantasy, the more you can do to protect that last matchup, the one that matters the most and proves, you know, everything you've been fighting for all season, you want to protect that, and that's obviously a week 17 championship or whatnot. And so again, if you want to adjust things, you might adjust it uh, earlier into the season for playoffs. To me, obviously the weeks 15 through 17 is ideal. It's perfect, but people do mix it up, and that's
Mhm.
where you want to be aware of ways to change the game, ways to change the playoffs, and one option is to like have a 7-team playoff. Like that's something that I've seen people do. Where just like the NFL now, there's only one team that gets a bye. You can do a 7-team playoff we're the league winner of the regular season, the most wins, points for as a tiebreaker gets the one bye, and it's how you can bring in another team to the playoffs if you want to. Um, what do you think of that as an option?
So I think in a 12-team league, if you've got a very competitive league, where I mentioned earlier in the show, I've got a league right now where third through ninth place are all 5-5. I think a 17 playoff in that kind of league makes a lot of sense, especially in a 14-team league. Bring in a 7 to even 8-team playoff in a
Yeah,
14-team league. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm not opposed to the 17 playoff. You'll often look in a league, maybe that 7 seed we were talking about giving the points to the highest scoring team. Maybe that high scoring team, the last remaining one, gets that 7 seed. So that's I'm not opposed to it at all, Kevin.
another thing on like the seeding front is you can have a 14 playoff, you can have a 16 playoff, which is
Mhm.
more standard. The advantage of a 14 playoff is that the best of the best are fighting for the championship. At the same time, the best of the best isn't aren't always in that top four because of the unlucky schedules that people play with opponent scoring average and everything. So for me, I like the 16 playoff. Again, a seventh is great if you want like like a play-in game or something like that. Another thing is like with playoffs, do you want the set brackets where the bracket you're in, or do you like the reseeding? For you, Joey, what do you prefer?
So I like a set bracket if it's matchup based. Now, we talked about Flex League a little bit. One thing I didn't point out is how their playoffs work. It's reseeded, but your matchup, you're not actually playing a matchup in the second week of the playoffs. All four teams are competing against each other. The two top teams move on. So it doesn't matter if you win your matchup. You need to be one of the top two scoring teams. So the best teams get into the playoffs. I don't think a bad idea. You mentioned 4-team leagues. I think a really cool thing you could do the 14 playoff is to have 2-week playoff matchups. If you've just got four
Yeah.
teams, make your playoffs 4 weeks. And maybe that's a way to involve that 18th week where, yeah, there's a little chaos adding into the factor, but you still got that week 17 base that's going to be based on good matchups. So 2-week playoffs is a good option too. Maybe a 2-week championship. So you get like a really clearly defined champion.
Well, and if you go with only 4 teams, you definitely don't need to start it, you don't need that last week of the season because
No,
you
you
can
don't.
start the playoffs, and be done
Yeah.
with it pretty quickly. Well, I guess you're right. It'd be 4 weeks. So, yeah, you can definitely do that. That's an option. And I think that a lot of people do like the 2-week playoffs because it's less of a, okay, my guys didn't show up this week. It's a larger sample size, proving more of like how a team did, down the stretch.
Mhm.
Another, a few other twists you can do in a fantasy league is where the highest seed in the round gets to choose their opponent. We do that as well in my home league, where the first 2 teams get buys, but that third seed gets to choose their opponent, which it brings in some fate, some destiny. Like,
Yeah.
do I want to take the risk in going outside of that 6th seed? We implemented that because of that 6th spot getting the high points. That's probably
Okay.
a juggernaut type of team. We wanted that
Yeah.
3rd seed to have a choice whether they want to face them or not. So, so I kind of like that. Like I said, I've implemented that. But that's a twist, where you can actually
I
have a.
I like that. I imagine being the team that doesn't get picked to be like, oh,
Oh,
or the team that gets picked. Like, I want to play him. That would fire me up so much. Like, oh, really?
exactly.
I'm the
Yep.
matchup you want? Like, watch
Yep.
out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
definitely starting a kicker this week.
Yeah, stoke the rivalries, stoke the flames for sure, and that's what it does. And then it creates second guessing. It creates some drama. Another option, for a twist would be like I have a home field advantage. Higher seeds getting a few extra bonus points,
Hmm.
where they get a little advantage. Again, in the playoffs, we want as a commissioner, I want the best team to win the championship, right?
Mhm.
So I want to give some advantage. That's an option of giving some advantage to higher seeds. Um, and
How many
then
points would you give? I'm just
I
spitballing.
think 5 is kind of a
Five?
normal
Okay.
a normal amount that
I
people
like that.
give. Yeah, yeah. And so there's a lot of different creative twists that you can implement into a league, but it's good to be open minded and kind of research into it and figure out what might work if you want to mix things up. You know,
I like that.
so
Uh,
obviously you want to align the structure with the league culture and keep the excitement high. One good message for leagues, especially if you like chaos, to understand that you also don't want to put in chaos that creates issues and makes people upset. Don't
yeah.
force something onto a league if they don't like it. So understand your league mates before you would go and end up setting new, crazy new settings and that kind of stuff. Make sure that it's a collective agreement, about implementing something into a fantasy league.
Yeah, I think the whole chaos factor like really plays well for the beginning of the season, but like we've kind of it seems like we're leaning towards like once the playoffs start, that needs to be probably the most structured part of your season for your league. Like
Yeah.
no shenanigans this time of year. This is for the people that showed up. These are for the people, not necessarily winning games, but putting up points, being engaged, it rewards those people. And I think, having the most structured part of your season being then and now is probably the best move.
Yeah, so some of the innovative playoff structures and formats people do, again, 7-team playoff, just one number 1 seed bye. You got a points based or cumulative scoring over multiple weeks. You mentioned that with flex leagues having kind of a points based in order to get to that championship. You can still make that championship a head to
Mhm.
head, but early couple rounds of the playoffs, if you make it points based, you are ensuring that the teams playing the best at that time of the season are advancing. Again, if you're all about the head to head, traditional fantasy, I support you all the way. But if you want to mix it up, that's definitely a way to change the game. Double elimination is something people do. Best ball is something people do sometimes for early rounds in the playoffs, or like Joey said, a 2-week playoff matchup is definitely something that you can do to help
Mhm.
reduce flukes and reduce some of the bad luck that happens. Again, if you embrace the bad luck and you think that is part of the fantasy experience, I'm with you. It's what it's all about to me.
Yeah. So I think if you've got a playoff twist that you didn't hear here, that we covered quite a few, Kevin. Like we really did. But if you didn't get your favorite playoff twist mentioned here and you want to let us know about it, fbgcommish@footballguys.com. Let us know about your fun playoff twists, ones that keep things level. Maybe listen, if you like the chaos, we don't want you turning away too. Let's hear about the chaos. We want to talk about that too. Kevin, I want to talk about the people that weren't so fortunate, the people that maybe deserve a little punishment, a little, not hate, but they don't, maybe they get to sit at the kid table if you've got a league party. They don't get to sit at the main table. Let's talk about the toilet bowl and consolation brackets. The purpose of toilet bowls and consolation brackets, we want to keep even the eliminated teams involved. We want the whole league involved the whole season long for as long as we can keep it going. A traditional toilet bowl, bottom teams compete for prizes, bragging rights, or quirky awards. What are some of your favorite prizes that you'll see go to a toilet bowl loser? I guess it's one of the few tournaments where a loser gets the trophy.
Yeah, well, first let's define toilet bowl. People, there's a couple different definitions out there. To me, it's always been it's the winner of the consolation bracket, just what you're describing. To some people, even I think Sleeper thinks it's this way. They think the toilet bowl winner is the loser of the last place game, right?
Mhm.
I don't think that's what it is. But
Okay.
either way, there's ways you can kind of you can play around with it. But for me, traditional toilet bowl is it's the winner of the consolation bracket. I personally, we celebrate these toilet bowl championships at our draft. We when we do our award ceremony, it's at our next season's draft, right? So we do it all. We honor
Okay.
the champion. We honor the toilet bowl. We give out awards, speeches, all that good stuff. I traditionally have made like a toilet bowl championship trophy. It's basically a toilet bowl cleaner, and then I bling it out like
Okay.
over the top bling. Tons of fun, great way to decorate it. And these guys that win this league, they want that trophy. It's so beautiful. They get to, I've had multiple toilet bowl winners, just displaying those things in the house like it's their, it's like their prized possession. And so
I
that's
have
where, yeah, go ahead.
I've never heard of awarding the toilet bowl champion.
Oh yeah,
I've
yeah.
only heard of punishing the loser. Kevin, I love this. Like, I'm learning something new today. Like, in my main home league, we've got the troll bowl, and the loser gets this really ugly trophy they have to display in their house the whole year. But I've never thought about awarding the person that wins
Well,
that
think about it.
matchup.
I mean, they
I'm
won the
going to.
consolation
I
bracket.
love
They
that.
they won
Yeah,
the consolation
they
bracket.
did.
They're the best of the best outside of the playoffs.
Huh.
They probably had a fight for the playoffs. They probably deserved they're obviously they built a roster that was made for that stretch run. They won
Gotcha.
they win the toilet bowl. I think we should honor them. Again, there's
Yeah.
multiple ways to do it. One is a lot of people will choose to have the toilet bowl winner win something, which is basically like, choosing their draft position the next season.
Hmm.
I think I love that. I think that's a lot of fun where we're the toilet bowl champion. They kind of get hosed. They're in the wrong bracket, maybe. They win it all. They step up. They win something. They get to choose their draft position. That kind of keeps people fighting. That when you're in the
Hmm.
consolation bracket, you want to win that toilet bowl championship if there's an award or a reward. I think that you know getting that trophy might not be enough. Sometimes, the draft pick is something that people can do. But that makes me think also there is also a reverse bracket that can be done. And that is where you honor the absolute loser, where each
Yeah.
matchup in the constellation bracket, the loser actually advances. And that's where you can kind of do the reverse, you know, toilet bowl where the last place team in the whole playoffs is considered the toilet bowl champion. And that's what Sleeper does. I disagree with it. I like people fighting in trying to win, but it's a different way to look at it, and some people do that.
Yeah, I think we have highlighted something here today, Kevin, where you like awarding people and I like punishing people for bad deeds. I love that though. Like, I really am coming away from this. Like, I need to celebrate that person that comes out of that consolation bracket because it is a bracket in many ways. Some other cool things you can do: side bets, mini contests. You can do memes. Like, do a plaque that's like not necessarily a plaque, but just a meme of the toilet bowl champion. Recaps, power rankings, charity tie-ins, lots of stuff. What are your favorites of extra things you can do there?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Again, if we're talking about engagement down the stretch or engagement in the playoffs, is those little mini side bets, head to head. bets from outside the league. It just kind of keeps people interested. The memes, I think, are just great. Like I said, fueling the rivalries. Doing a little bit of artwork to kind of profile an important matchup in the playoffs. It's fun. It just makes people, you know, it gets people excited for what's going to come. If you're the commissioner and you're dropping this kind of stuff, people love that. We talked about a newsletter, last episode or so, where one of the exciting things about that is you're looking forward to it. You don't know what the commissioner is going to do next, right? You're waiting for something to drop. Oh, here's a funny video on YouTube, or here's a newsletter that trolls the league members. A meme, just a funny meme dropped in a league chat can do so much to amplify the experience, amplify the playoff, excitement, and capture it. We talked about the toilet bowl. I also, I think there should be some shame too as well. I celebrate them with a trophy, but I also put a toilet bowl, a toilet seat over their heads while they're getting their award, and so there's some shame involved too. So you got to have fun every aspect you can.
Yeah, as there should be shame. If you come in last place, I won't give you our email address because I don't want you to email us to let us know. But no. But no, there should be some shame and some punishment. We covered that a little earlier. I completely agree with that. Now, when the fantasy season ends, your champion's been crowned. Your toilet bowl champion has been crowned, and it feels like there's nothing left to play for. Kevin, are there any other, like, let's say beyond the standard fantasy season? Are there any competitions that you tend to kind of gravitate towards?
Yeah, I think that it's always a disappointment when the fantasy season ends. For some people, it's a relief, like they put in all the work, it's over. But it's weird to go from the fantasy season to nothing. So
Yeah.
extending the fun with your league, you want to do things that create more connection, enhance the culture of your league. So do an NFL playoff league. It's either easy to draft. You can do NFL playoff leagues. There's different formats for them. There's survivor formats. There's even like a guillotine playoff. But typical sites are going to offer NFL playoff fantasy, a ton of fun to add to the end of the fantasy league. You can also make it meaningful too.
Yeah.
You can do an NFL playoff fantasy league and have that determine your draft order. I mean, you can do something like that, or you can have the winner of that again maybe choose their draft order position. So
Yes.
making it meaningful is what it's all about, and enhancing connections and the camaraderie of a league is the key.
Do you like the playoff ones where everybody's got the same player pool? You can only choose one player for each week. The points double as they move on. Those are a lot of fun. You get to look at the wild card week. Okay, who do I think is going to win? There's a lot of strategy that comes into that too. I think we need to do an episode on playoff leagues, Kevin.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there
We have
because
to.
yeah, it's so much fun because like you said, like you described, you're not just picking the players, but you're also picking who you think is going to be in the Super Bowl. I was in one last year where my team was loaded, but the Super Bowl matchup did not line up. So I was
Oh,
like in
there you go.
first place going into the
Yeah.
Super Bowl, but I didn't have anybody going in the Super Bowl. I had maybe a couple players. It ended up not winning, but that's a lot of fun, and I definitely encourage people to do NFL playoff fantasy because once that season's over, once that league is done, it is the off season.
I want to put us on the spot. Is that going to be our first show league? The home league podcast? Okay. The
We
home
should.
league show playoff challenge?
I think
Are
we
we
should
saying
do
it
it.
here now?
Put it on the
Because this will,
books.
yeah, let's do it. Okay. I'm gonna make a note. That's gonna be our first like show league. All right.
I love it. I love it.
Let's do
But
it.
yeah, I mean, obviously, extending the season with something like that can be a ton of fun. But big picture, make the whole playoffs fun. Do things to engage everybody. Even if you miss the main playoffs with that constellation bracket, you can still stoke some engagement and create some fun out of it. And the story's not over till the season ends for everybody.
Yeah. And a pro tip, use the toilet bowl or constellation games as content hooks for the chat. You want to keep that chat going the whole season long. Keep everybody engaged. I love that, Kevin.
I love it.
So we're looking at closing takeaways. Like what are we going to take away from this episode? Playoffs aren't just for the top teams. Engagement, top to bottom matters. Bring in toilet bowls. Make that 6th place team the highest scoring team in your league. Get creative playoff formats, meaningful consolation games equals a lot more fun and energy. Active group chats keep leagues alive even after they are eliminated.
I love it. And that ties right into again, just having more fun in a fantasy league. And I think the last place lounge brings some fun. So we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna talk about a few last place punishments, 4 different last place punishments. I'm gonna share with Joey and we're gonna rank them. We're gonna talk about them, have a little fun. So again,
These are
last place.
rougher. These are
Yeah,
rougher
we're
than
stepping
last
it
week.
up. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
stepping it up. So
Oh
last place
boy.
again, it's really about having fun in the league, shaming the last place manager, but it's also about creating a reason not to be in last place. You want people fighting all season long to not get this award and get this
Yeah.
shame. So we'll talk about 4. I'll start with social media takeover by a league. Right, for one day, the league gets to take over the last place manager's social media account.
Okay. That's fun.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Next up, pay for the league's championship ring. This is a step up from like paying for the dues. This is actually, I feel like this one's better than like just paying the league members' dues. You're actually having to buy, an award for the league champ. So buying the league champion's bling ring. Personal assistant for the league champ at the next season's draft, costume, catering, all the needs of the champ. That person is there assisting that champ to make sure the champ has a good draft and not necessarily you have a good draft. And then lastly, we'll talk about one of the all-time greats for sure. It's the stand-up comedy open mic set. So
All right.
there we are.
Per usual, I ranked them as you talked about them. And if you were watching the show and you just saw my gut reactions, um, I read the list before Kevin started talking about them. I'm gonna go in order of like what I don't think's as bad. Pay for the league ring, like while it's fun, yeah, make them pay for that league ring. That would be the one that I'm like, okay, that'll keep me in the league. That'll keep me involved. Next year, they're gonna pay for my ring, so I love that one. The third, the personal assistant that can be a rough day for you. You'll get past that day, but it'll be a rough day, Kevin. I wouldn't want to be your personal assistant. I don't know what you're going to ask me to do, but I don't think I want to do it. Um, the next 2 are pretty rough, and I had to think about it a little bit. The social media that can get you canceled. Uh, you got to have some trust, know your culture in the league, but if you're bringing that up to the table, be ready because that could, not in a bad way, but it could really have some fun with that. Like if I got to take ownership of somebody's social media accounts, talk about memes and gifs in the league. That it would be a constant flow. Um, Kevin, I'm afraid the stand-up comedy open mic, I would legitimately have to think if I want to join this league because to have to do that, someone that's done stand-up comedy and died on stage, it is one of the most gut-wrenching things that can happen to you. Now, sure, you could go up there and you could deliver a good set, but if you've never done it before and you're having to do it on a whim, I have never had a fantasy punishment that bad. I've heard of people doing it. That man, that's rough. That
Yeah, I mean, I think
oh
that I think you ranked those appropriately. I would agree with everything you said there. I think for some people that's an all timer. That's the best last place punishment because you got your whole league there.
oh
Watching
yeah.
every moment of it. Like that's as good as it gets on the far end of the spectrum. There are others out there that are great as well. But I think with last place punishments, again, you got to know your league, know your culture. If it's a punishment the league member will quit over, you probably don't do it unless you want that manager to quit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's why I kind of like this spectrum because buying a ring, it serves multiple
Hmm.
purposes. There's a punishment involved. The champ gets something that they may have not bought on their own, but they love. And that's a great one. It's easy, but it's effective, right? But then
Yeah.
on the other end of the spectrum, the viral, the takeover online that can go really bad or good, however you want to look
Or
at it.
good. Yeah.
And,
Well,
and
I
then
think if you put
open mic,
rules on
wow,
it, with the
yeah,
social
yeah,
media,
there's got
like you
exactly.
put rules on it, you can have a lot of fun with it. That feels like And I don't want to. I'm not dogging on your for the stand up comedy. I think it's brilliant. I think it's wonderful. It would make me stay engaged all season long. Like I'm not missing a waiver period because
No.
I'm not going to get on that stage and do that stand up set. Um,
Exactly, and there's risks too. You might say, "I will never do that, therefore I will never be in last place in my league." Like,
yeah,
that's how you wanna
motivation.
be thinking about it. I love it. I love it. That's the some of those punishments, again, have fun with your league, know your league. Make sure to set the rules around the punishment. So again, like Joey said, with a social media takeover, there are limits. There are certain boundaries we don't go in. But if everyone knows and is on the same page and they elect to have this as their punishment, you know, best of luck to everybody not getting that last place.
Have you ever had to do stand up, Kevin?
I have not. No, I have not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Even
that would be fun and not fun.
even when you have material prepared, it's terrifying because you're by yourself.
Oh my
Sometimes
gosh.
your only friend up there is Mike. That's the mic stand. Like
Oh.
that's all you got with. See, and that's a joke I told on stage. Die just like I did here. And that's what can happen, Kevin.
So
Um,
good. When you got the whole
listen.
league, sorry, you got the whole league out
Yeah,
there watching. It's so funny. Like, it's
and
goes
let me
so
tell
good.
you, when that league's out there, they're not going to laugh at any of your jokes. They want dead silence
I
the
love
whole
it.
time. If you guys have any type of punishments you'd like to hear us rank on the show, get with the commissioner hotline. Pull the phone up, Kevin. Oh, wait, the mailbox too. You can send
Yeah.
it anywhere. Send us audio submissions. We'll play them on the show. If you have advice requests, if you have questions, we want to hear it all. FBG commish at footballguys.com. We want to hear from you. This is not, we've said it before on the show. This is not just Kevin and Joey's show. This is your show too. We want you involved. We want you to definitely be a part.
And we want leagues to just get better out there.
Mhm.
Raise the standard in fantasy leagues. Have more fun in fantasy leagues because we get it. The culture is what it's all about. The fun, the connections. Make your fantasy league fun, more engaged, and your life's going to be better. I mean, that's one way to save the world, right? Improve this world by having more people have fun playing fantasy. I'm not even kidding. I think the world is better when more people are having fun and more connected, and fantasy is an awesome way to do it.
Agreed. Now, on our next episode, we're going to dive into the art of the last place punishment. If the stand up comedy set wasn't enough, we're going to bring you more. We're going to tell you how to craft that last place punishment, how to make it viral, how to make it the most talked about moment in your fantasy season. Um, Once again, if you've got any questions for us, make sure to hit us up at fbgcommish at footballguys.com. Make sure you're subscribed and liked to the YouTube page. Helps us out a ton. Check out footballguys.com. Catch up on the episodes. We've got 4 in the bank now. This is our 4th episode, Kevin. Wow, 4, like 4 horsemen. Look at us go. Lots of great stuff going on. We want to keep you engaged. We want to keep you involved in your league. We also want to hear about it.
Yeah, we do, and that's going to wrap the show. That's what it's all about. We want to hear, everything that you're doing in your fantasy leagues. We want to inspire you, but we want to learn from you too. So share what you're doing, so we can share it with the world. That wraps up this episode of the Football Guys Home League Show, where we help fantasy leagues raise the bar, one draft, one tradition, one connection at a time. Great leagues aren't built overnight; they're crafted with care, creativity, and community.
And that's why we're here to share your ideas, inspire your next move, and help you create a league that thrives. Take what you've heard here today, bring it back to your crew, and make your league better than ever. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your league. For more tools and strategies, visit footballguys.com, helping you win and make fantasy football more meaningful.
Stay engaged, stay creative, and keep the heart of fantasy football alive. This is the Home League Show, your guide to a better league and a better fantasy football
To the
experience.
football.